Hello there, and welcome back to the Showing Up to Your Life podcast and YouTube channel. I'm so happy to be here with you today. My name is Art Burns. Here on this podcast and YouTube channel, for all of you who are just joining us, we talk about life, right? And we talk about the ability to show up to life, and not only what it means to show up to life, but also how. There's specific tools, there's specific methods, and there's specific sort of ways in which we can, cultivate the ability to show up in every moment in our lives. And that means showing up to the people in our lives. That means showing up to our work in our lives, and not just the thing that we do for our money, but the work of our life, like what makes us passionate about life, right? You know, a lot of times life itself can prevent us from showing up for these things. And so in this podcast, what I try to do is I try to give you, not only inspiring information, but also, from time to time I give you some practices. And so they're all there back in the old episodes. So, but also, if you're new, you haven't heard this, but everybody who has been listening for a while and watching for a while certainly knows this, is that I have a policy. Okay. Now I am a professional, certified coach, and I help lots and lots of people all the time to do exactly what I just described, right? And so I have reserved a 45-minute coaching session in your name. And not only have I reserved the time for you, but I've paid for it too. So it is literally something that is sitting there with your name on it. And the only thing you have to do to claim it is to click the link that's in the description of this video. Okay, it's in the email if you got this on my email list. It's in the description on YouTube and on all of the podcast platforms that you might be finding me on. And so I truly encourage you to check it out, because, it's a resource. It's very valuable. Okay. I charge people, over $100 a session. And so, there's some true value there. So it's there for you. Okay. If you're interested, and if you want to learn about some of the practices that we talk about here, and certainly if you want to, inquire about an ongoing coaching program, that's what we can do. Okay. Now, I have another announcement that I'm really excited about. Okay, now I'm probably doing what I always do, and falling back into my pattern and announcing something maybe too soon, but I just can't help it. I just can't wait to tell you about this. Okay, so for a long time I've been trying to find a solution to a problem. Right now, the problem is that, as I just told you, coaching, it's not cheap. And well, I mean, I shouldn't say it's not cheap, because it's, what you get from coaching makes it seem pretty cheap, right? I mean, it's very, very economical, that's for sure, right? But the thing is that there's capital investment involved, right? And a lot of people, find that even the modest amount that I charge, because there are some coaches out there. I had a client tell me the other day that she was asked to pay $2,500 for a single session with a coach. Now, to me, I don't ever want to get to that level, because that is just way too, I'm sure that person is only working with very high level, executives. First of all, who else can afford that? But those are the kind of people who believe that, well, if it doesn't cost a lot of money, then it can't be worth anything, but my guess is that there's some people in my list here that realize that's not the truth, right? That it doesn't have to cost a lot of money for it to be valuable. And if you can watch a few of my videos here, you'll know that I do deliver a lot of value, okay? But even $100 a session, by 12 sessions or so, that's a lot of money for some people, for many people, even for me, that's a lot of money. It's not easy to just fork that over. And so the problem is that, how do I deliver a personalized and truly helpful coaching at a reachable, attainable price for people, right? And so I finally came up with a solution, I believe. Okay, so as you all know, well, if you're new, you don't know, but I've mentioned this quite a few times, that I do this every Wednesday night. I do this little meetup thing, right? Where we have a group of people. Generally speaking, I get between, like, say 8 and 12 people every Wednesday night, and it's really a core group. People miss 1 week here, 1 week there, but really, and somebody last night just referred to our group as a family, and that just made me so excited, right? But the thing is, though, that it's a guided meditation, right? And then we spend like maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, kind of talking and answering questions that people come with, um, but it's a guided meditation session, really. That, and I think that might be a little bit like, I don't know if I want a guided meditation. So it hasn't really, I haven't seen a lot of people from this group go into that group, and so something I've been thinking about and trying to gauge and figure out. I've got a couple of people interested, so it's gonna happen. Okay, we're going to do a one night a week sort of hour-long coaching. I don't know what I'm going to call it. Maybe the Art Burns coaching hour or something like that, right? One night a week, we're going to show up, whoever drops in, right? And it's going to be, by donation, right? So $10, $15, probably the suggested donation will be about $15, but it's a suggestion, right? And if that's not available to you, well, then that's okay, right? Like we'll still help you, okay? But the idea of this session is going to be, basically what I plan to do is take 4 different topics each week, right? So we'll, because I want to cap it at 4, because otherwise it's going to become very long. If I spend 15 minutes, on each person, each of 4 people, then it's going to be a kind of more manageable kind of thing, right? So that's the intention. That could change, right? We don't know. This is just, it's all in the ether, as they say, right? So we're just, it's all coming into sort of form and function as we speak. So what it's going to look like, nobody knows. Right, least of all me. And so the idea then is to make this sort of a even like a co-creation kind of thing, right? We'll kind of go week by week, but anyway, the purpose is to have an hour-long session that people can come into who want to know, like, okay, I've been trying to figure out this mindfulness stuff. I've watched all your videos. I just have this one thing I don't get. Like, what is this thing, right? Well, I can talk about that for 15 minutes, and I promise you, if you give me 15 minutes and any topic in mindfulness, I will make sure you understand it, right? That's something I can do, right? And so that's the idea, right? And so even though it'll be only 4 questions and maybe we have 10 people show up, the thing is that you'll get value out of other people's questions, right? So it really becomes like a coaching session, an hour-long group coaching session is essentially what we're talking about, okay? And so, and again, I don't know if we're going to limit it to 4 questions or not. It was just an idea that popped into my head. But anyway, okay, I'm going to, how am I got to figure out some way for you to let me know if you're interested. So for now, I'm going to ask you to just email me, okay, at art@artburnscoaching.com. Just say, I'm interested. You can just put that in the subject line, I'm interested. I'll put you on my list, and as I come up with more details and more sort of, granular sort of details, we'll fill you in as they come available, okay? But hoping to start this in the next week or 2, okay? And it's going to be one evening in the week. All right. So, and by the way, I mean, I would love for you to check out this this meditation group on Wednesdays. I want to just read for you what somebody just sent me a message in there. Not going to give you the name or anything, but Art, good morning. Happy Thursday. Thank you for welcoming me and all of us into your special circle of community. You are a master guided meditation sage. Aw. You create a place of safety, security, and openness. Your listening skills are outstanding and offers all a chance to share. So, and then he goes on to some other stuff. But anyway, that's what people are saying about this group, right? And so they're not wrong, right? I mean, maybe the sage part might be. I've never considered myself a sage. I definitely don't consider myself a guru. Although I've had one client who said, I don't care what you think, you're my guru. So whatever, it's all good. These are just labels. We're not going to get hung up on that stuff. But the point is that the meditations are really good. I mean, people really, and that is what I'm trained to do, right? I'm a certified meditation teacher, right? And that's legit. right? And so I know what I'm doing. So if you're interested, it's there for you. Okay. And that also is something we offer by donation. We don't even make a suggested donation for that. Most people do not donate. There are some people who do, but most people do not. So literally just show up. Okay. And I'll put the link in the description again. And if Wednesday nights don't work for you, I know usually it's been either Wednesday night or Saturday morning. Well, starting this coming week, it's going to be Monday night and Wednesday night. I will only do the Wednesday. My colleague Adam will do the guided meditation and discussion on Monday. And then I'm going to do this other thing, probably thinking maybe Thursday night, 7 p.m. Mountain. That's what I'm feeling. That's what it's feeling like right now. But we're going to see. All right. Okay, so now on to new business. And it's funny, this black book this week, I feel bad. It's taken a beating. We're really just so off script. It's been a week of improvisational podcasts here. As I've told many, I've said this many times, is that when I plan these out, I try to, and I usually have like 3 or 4 weeks ahead. I have them all planned out. And normally I stick to that pretty strictly. I adhere to the plan, right? It used to be that I actually wrote out the script for every one of these episodes I did and literally would just read it. I would read it a few times to warm up and then basically just read, in a speech writing kind of way, not like, and then I would do it. You wouldn't know that I was reading necessarily, but I was, right? And so now we've gotten to the point where I'm just like, throw this book away. Let's get into stuff that we're talking about now, And so this morning a thought came to me, and it was actually not a very pleasant thought, but it turned into something. It went from something that was filled with fear and shame and resentment and regret, and it turned into something that was filled with excitement and joy and creativity. Doesn't that sound good? All right, cool. So let's talk about that. So the thing that occurred to me this morning, right, is that I for some reason, my son and I are planning to go on. My son is 10 years old, and he and I are planning to take like a 2 or 3 day road trip and just camp out, in the woods, and maybe drive, through the Rocky Mountains over to Moab in Utah, right? Like that's a good destination. It's about 6 hours away, so we'll make that in like 2 legs. Camp out in the mountains on the way. Camp out in Moab. It's just beautiful out there. So we're planning to do that. We're kind of loosely planning. It's going to happen one of these days. Might wait till it cools off a little bit, but and I have to also check the forest fires and stuff because we don't be driving through forest fires. So whatever, we'll figure that out. But he's so excited about it, just to spend time together, and that's the thing that led to this thought that my son loves me so much. I mean, he just wants to spend all the time with me. He just wants to like hang out. It doesn't even matter if we're doing anything specific, just to be there, And in fact, my son and I every night, now he's 10 years old and I'm never going to change this. Pardon me, I'm tearing up here just thinking about this, that, every night I put him to bed and I lie down with him and he falls asleep with us holding hands. And that's what he wants. And I'm not going to tell him no. Right. Understanding I'm coming as a person who, my father told me when I was his age that I was stupid. Like, right? So, he used to tell me, yeah, don't walk around with your mouth open. You look like an idiot, Like, okay, thanks, Dad, wonderful. And so I never had that love for my father. I never had that affinity towards him. I had rejection and pain when it was associated with my father. And so today, for some reason, this whole thing, I think I was thinking about him last night, talking about this camping trip that we're taking, and he's just so excited that it had me thinking about it. And so this morning I was, I was thinking about that, and then it occurred to me, I started thinking about, when he gets older, and like that, like I'm holding his hand every morning or every night to fall asleep rather. And so when's that going to stop? And what's that relationship going to look like? What's it going to look like for our relationship to sort of graduate into two adults? Right. And the thing is, and this really like just kind of fell on me. And I, it was tough. What I realized all in one really difficult moment is that I don't have any kind of mental model of what a healthy father and son relationship looks like. I don't know. I mean, I know what it looks like in terms of like watching Leave It to Beaver and stuff like that, right? But I don't have a model for what that is. Right? Meaning, like, I don't know what it's like to, because, we say Leave It to Beaver. You're watching, I mean, of course, that's a joke. I mean, we could also use the Brady Bunch or whatever other, iconic sitcom of American family life and stuff like that, right? But the point is, even if you were to absurdly use one of those, which it doesn't work, but even if you were to use something like that as your sort of guide, well, you're only getting a little sliver of what that looks like, right? So what does it look like for a father and son to, to just talk, not talk about like birds and bees and body changes and stuff like that, but just talk. Like what does that look like? What does it look like to have interest in one another? What does it look like to actually want to spend time with one another, right? I have no vision. I have no model for what that looks like. Now, in the beginning, as you can see, I'm still like tearing up here thinking about this, right? Because it's sad and it's painful for me to think about the fact that I never had that. I was deprived of that. And that sucks. That was really, really hard, But at the same time, right, I can also maybe be thankful for it, right? And bear with me here, right? So at first glance, as soon as I had this thought, I became very sad, and I even started feeling some fear, right? Like, oh my gosh, like yeah, I'm like traveling without a map. I have no idea where the roads go. I'm traveling blind, literally. I have no idea. And so that's scary, right? That's like, holy crap, what am I going to do? How am I going to figure this out? What if I screw it all up? Right? Those are the thoughts that kind of come through, right? And so now there's practices that I can certainly help you to do, and this is one practice called RAIN, right? Which is we recognize that this thing is happening. I'm having this struggle of understanding, right? I accept that this is the reality, that I'm struggling with this. And now I can investigate it, right? I can investigate it with my, in the way we investigate as we experience this thing in my body, in my emotions, in my thoughts, and also how the sort of, tendencies and patterns and programming of my life kind of, how this goes through that filter of my programming, right? And then, of course, at the end, now the N of RAIN is non-identification, right? So the RAIN practice is RAIN: recognition, acceptance, investigation, non-identification. I can certainly help you with that practice. I'll send you a document, no problem. Just get in touch with me, right? But after going through that this morning, after having this really kind of troubling and scary and really uncomfortable kind of moment with this, right? What emerged from that practice was that, wait a second, like traveling with a map, without a map, it can be seen as something scary, but by the same logic and by the same metrics, it can also be seen as something really exciting. And it could be seen as scary, or it can be seen as adventure, right? Just think about that. Imagine if you had no particular destination and you were just taking a trip, right? But you had no particular destination and you had no time that you had to be there, and you had nothing, well, now it's just wide open. It's exactly what I make of it now. And that, my friends, is very, very exciting, right? And so a lot of times, these mental models that we have, these schema that we have, regarding, okay, this is the way a healthy spousal relationship looks like. This is what a healthy, father-child relationship looks like. This is the way a mother-child relationship looks like, right? We have these schema, right? But in many ways, those schema become very limiting, right? It becomes something where, we become imprisoned by that notion of this is how it's supposed to be, right? And the problem there, right, is that if we find ourselves not measuring up to that thing that we think it's supposed to be, well, now we're getting into all kinds of shame and all kinds of, emotional, distress because we're not good enough for that thing, right? We're not as good as, I'm not as good as my father was to me, right? And so without that, right, without that sort of mental model based on what I experienced with my own father, well, now it becomes really exciting, and it becomes really like, it's like really a blank canvas, and I get to paint the picture that I want to paint. Now, of course, knowing I don't know how to paint, right? So it's not going to look like a Picasso or a Rembrandt or something that's a mastery, right? But I'm going to make it look like I want it to look to the best of my ability. And that is going to be good enough, right? Because the truth is, right? I mean, look at me. I'm doing fine. I have to say I'm doing fine is a tricky kind of thing because I do struggle at times. I mean, there's still moments that I have like this morning thinking about that, like where my own trauma comes back and really hurts. It really, really hurts. Okay. So to say I'm fine, that's a tricky sort of, we'd have to define what fine really means if we're going to talk that way, right? But I am functional, right? I am, I have a happy family, right? Even though I'm not always happy myself, my kids are very happy. My son yesterday, and this tells me I'm doing something right as a parent, right? My son tells me as we're, lying there, holding hands, getting ready to go to sleep or drifting off to sleep, really. The last thing my son said to me was that, this was not last night, 2 nights ago. He said, yeah, and I don't remember how exactly we got onto the subject, but he said, yeah, I don't think hell is an actual place. I think hell is where people are, in this life are thinking all the time. They're just sitting there all the time thinking about everything that's wrong with their life and how hard things are and how scary things are. That's what hell is, Dad. He said heaven is when people think of how grateful they are for things and how, they think about the love and the compassion and the family and their cats. That's what this 10-year-old kid said to me yesterday. And that's a noble truth. Like that's like, yeah, that's everything, right? There's a traditional Zen story that illustrates exactly what he just said. And I've told you that story here, right? With the samurai and the monk. The samurai says, "Monk, teach me about heaven and hell." And the monk looks at him and he says, "Why should I teach you anything? You just interrupted my meditation. You smell like a horse stable and I don't really have time for you." And the samurai takes his sword out and holds it over the monk's head, ready to, trembling with the ready to kill him. And the monk looks at me and says, "That is hell." And the monk, the samurai drops his sword, falls to his knees, and says, "Oh my gosh, monk, I can't express the gratitude that I have. You just put your life at risk to teach me this lesson. Like I was literally about to kill you, and you could have been killed very easily just now, and yet you took that chance just to teach me this beautiful lesson. I'm humbled in my gratitude." He's crying. This samurai is, and the monk looks and he says, "This is heaven." Right. And that's what my son just came up with. So obviously something's going right. Right. And so I can just keep, living moment by moment with my children, making sure that I'm being compassionate, making sure I'm being present, which allows me to be patient. I can attune to him, right? Which means to look past his behavior and try to see his emotions. I can resonate with him. I can, kind of, feel his emotions and allow him to feel mine. And we can create this beautiful resonance between us, which we do. And then out of that comes trust. Out of all of that comes the trust that we will have for one another, which of course was also absent in my, you can't trust a guy who abandoned you when you're 5 years old and then just emotionally abuses you for the rest of your life. You can't trust somebody like that. Right? You're not present with them, you're not attuning to them, and you're not resonating with them either, right? This is all part of what Dan Siegel calls the part of relationships, PART. He's an acronym maven, and just I love it. He's also tells a lot of dad jokes too, so he's my kind of guy, But that's the thing, right? Like this gives me the opportunity to do something that is completely on its own and of its own, and just really completely without any comparison, without any judgment, without any expectations. This can just be me and my son, and what grows from that. And just like growing a garden or a plant, you know you just got to nurture it, you just got to nourish it, you just got to pay attention to it and care for it, right? And the thing is, and that's where compassion comes in, right? As I think about my children, and I hold them in my compassion, they're inside of me, right? Because I'm holding them in this compassion, right? They live here in my heart. And once they exist in my nervous system as an energy, which that's what it is, right? Now they're part of me, and I have to care for myself, right? I have to keep myself alive. I have to keep myself well. I have to feed myself. I have to clothe myself. I have to, take care of myself. And so I take care of them and our relationship. And so it's just moment by moment cultivating the relationship. And this is where it gets tricky for me, right? Because my father and mother, even though they were terribly abusive to me, right, they always took us on like vacations to Florida and stuff like that. And we had like beach trips and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of times I sit here and I compare like, oh, but I don't get to take my kids to the beach because we live out here in Denver, Colorado, and I don't want to go back to my parents' house by the beach. And so it becomes something where I start to feel like inadequate, like I'm not giving my kids what I had growing up. But that's when I look at what I came through this morning and what I've just talked to you about. I'm giving them so much more, right? Like so much more. So anyway, I hope that lands with some of you. I don't know how many of you needed to hear this today, or how many of you, kind of are in a similar situation, okay? But, again, if you want to talk about this specifically, it's important, and I'd be more than happy to do so. So you can either wait for your first group session, right, in a couple of weeks, or you can just book a call with me tomorrow. Either way, the instructions will be in the description. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Really wish you well, and I'll be back again tomorrow, maybe with something out of the Black Book, but we'll see. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.